If you are thinking of preparing IMAT Biology, then this video is going to be the best video you will ever watch. Most students are going to spend the next few months in the most inefficient way. They are going to read every single page, every single word, and highlight every single line without any strategy. But in actual reality, the students that have the proper strategy and study IMAT in the most efficient way are the ones that will get the most amount of marks. IMAT is not about who studies the most, it's about who studies in the most efficient way, what is your strategy, and how you manage all the subjects with each other. So in this video, I will be telling you how you can make a best strategy and how you can study in the most efficient way. The exam patterns for IMAT has changed a lot in the past few years. That's why I made this video so you can learn about what are the patterns that are being followed in the past few years, because the examiners are not following the traditional pathway and the questions are coming out of random topics and random chapters and the questions are not coming equally from all the chapters. So you have to learn pattern cognition to understand that which topics are much more important, which are high yield and which are low yield. If you understand what are the chapters that are high yield, then you will be able to score much higher if you use that strategy in most efficient way. So if you are serious about scoring high and getting really good marks in IMAT biology, then this series is going to help you to understand how you can achieve that goal, because most students are not going to be able to get those marks. Okay, so let's start by understanding the psychology of IMAT. For every subject that you are preparing for, you have to understand what is the psychology and what is the IMAT trying to ask from me. Because if you know what the exam is trying to ask from you, what type of questions that are being asked, what are the most important topics, what are low yield topics, then you can be really prepared and you will know where I have to put my most efforts and most amount of time into. And when you know that these are high yield topics and these are low yield topics, then you will be really clear about where you will be investing most of your time. So first of all, let's understand IMAT exam, because IMAT exam has been fluctuating. There has been so many changes that have been occurring since 2023. So in 2025, the exam format contained 60 questions. You had to attempt it in 100 minutes. And the most amount of MCQs were asked from biology. Biology contains about 23 questions. So biology has the most amount of MCQs that you need to attempt. Reading skill and general knowledge contain 4 questions, logical contains 5, biology contains 23, chemistry contains 15, mathematics contains 7, and physics contains 6 questions. So now you know that biology has the most amount of questions, and now you know that you have to give your most amount of efforts to biology too, because if you lose marks from biology, then you are going to be doomed, to be honest, because like practically almost half of your marks are coming from biology. So let's understand what has been changed since 2023. If you compare 2024 and 2025, the number of students that appeared in 2024 were 11,000, and then they increased to 13,000 in 2024. And EU students were 950, and in 2025 they were 1049. The students have been increasing since the advent of IMAT history, and they will keep increasing. The competition will get tougher each year. As you pass every year, the competition will increase. So if you either pass now, or you will be struggling every year, because the number of students applying every year are increasing every single time. Every single year there are 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 more students applying for this exam. Next is that what was the difficulty. 2024 was actually really easy, and there was really high cutoffs that year. Like in the history of IMAT, the highest cutoff was in IMAT 2024. The paper was practically really easy. The MCQs was so straightforward, they were easy for even a high school student. But in 2025, the paper was a bit moderate. It was still not really hard, but it was still harder than 2024. And biology section contained mostly basic cell biology, but in 2025 it was about respiration, because there were so many questions that were asked about respiration that year. And for chemistry, it was calculation heavy. In 2024 there were numericals and calculations, but in 2025 there was like simply theory. There were straightforward questions about what is an hydrogen bond, how you will define about acid and base. There was like simple definitions. So 2025 and 2024 was a bit different, and weird compatibility was seen in both of these years. So I advise you to practice both. You have to practice theory based questions and calculation based questions, because we don't know what might happen in 2026. So you should be focusing on both of these things. You should be knowing calculations and numericals, and you should also be solving theory questions. Next was like critical thinking. Critical thinking has been like the most important part in IMAT since until 2023. After 2023 there was no question from critical thinking part, but I still advise you, please don't neglect it. You should prepare it, even if you are giving most of your time to problem solving and reading comprehension, but still give some amount of time, like 1 or 2 days, to critical thinking, because that might help you if there was an unexpected situation. And next thing is like reading comprehension. Reading comprehension contain like very simple questions in 2024. Like they give you a paragraph, you have to analyze it, and then you have to select the most appropriate answer according to that paragraph. It was like very easy, like anyone could have solved that question. Even like from primary school student would have solved that. Like it was so easy, but I'm not even joking, because that was so easy. But in 2025 the question was like still comprehension based, but it was a bit medical text. Like they give you a situation and they asked you what would have been the most appropriate option, and what should be done that should be like maximize the benefits and minimize the risk. So that was also really easy, but it was like type of medical text. You don't have to worry too much about reading comprehension, but you still know what kind of things are asked. There was one question in reading comprehension that was a bit difficult. I think that was about a situation based question, but it was still situation based, and you can use some kind of techniques and formulas and strategies to solve these kind of questions. You will be finding them into our notes. So next thing is about biology. So biology is contained the most weird type of question compatibility in 2024 and 2025. So the first thing that you have to know is that during 2025 cellular respiration had 7 questions. Like only one chapter contained highest amount of questions, and that was cellular respiration. Like cellular respiration has been favorite chapter of IMAT, but there has never been so many questions from a single chapter. But this year cellular respiration contains 7 questions. And then muscles had 3 questions, enzymes had 2 questions, eukaryotic cells had 2 questions, and biological molecules had 2 questions. Cell membrane contained only 1 question. There has been like most favorite chapters and topics in IMAT. They are like cellular respiration, cell structure and functions, and genetics, and like biological molecules and muscles. These are the chapters that are the most favorite chapters. Even if the compatibility changes, even if the syllabus changes, even if the format changes, there are some chapters that are still going to be MCQs from, and these are the chapters that are most high yield. Next, you have to know about 2024. That exam for 2024 had most of the questions from cellular organelles. Like cellular organelles contained 4 questions. Genetics also contained 4 questions, and that's actually really weird, because in 2025 there was no question from genetics part. And then translation had 3 questions, and there was no question from translation in 2025. And basic cell biology had 3 questions, and in 2025 there was only 1 question from biological molecules. And nucleic acids had 2 questions. Cellular respiration had only 2 questions. DNA replication had 1. Cell membrane, carbohydrates, transport of substances, water molecules, and hydrogen bonds only had 1 question. So that was like the main chart that you have seen. Let's compare both of these. As you can see the comparison, cellular respiration had total of 9 questions in the past 2 years. Genetics had 4. There was no question in 2025. Cellular organelles had 4, but there was no question from it in 2025. But my approach for preparation in this year would have been that I would have seen that if cellular respiration had 2 questions and then 7 questions, then there is definitely 100% that cellular respiration will have a questions this year too. You can see the pattern here. There might be some low question and then high question, low question, high question, but cellular respiration always had questions, and there are going to be questions this year too. Then I will see that genetics had 4 questions and then no questions. That means that in 2026 genetics will have questions, not necessarily, but there are going to be questions from cellular organelles and genetics, because my sixth sense is telling me that there are going to be questions from these chapters. So don't leave these questions, because they are high yield topics, they are really important. Don't try to predict IMAT, but try to understand that what is important and what is less important. No one can predict anything, but you can make patterns. If you have pattern recognition, then you will know that these kind of things are going to happen. You can predict an exam using these patterns, because I have predicted so many questions, so many topics, so many past papers, and after that I have come to a conclusion that there are some topics, some chapters from there always going to be questions to be asked in every paper. I already told you, I will tell you again: cell biology, then you will have biological molecules, cell structure and functions, then you have muscles, then you have genetics, then you have cellular respiration, enzymes. These are chapters that are like most high yield, and from this chapter there are always going to be questions to be asked. So don't ever leave these chapters. I advise you shouldn't be leaving any chapter. Like, you should be studying all the chapters, because that's the way you will be getting full marks. But now you know that these are the topics that should be containing most of your time, because they contains the highest number of MCQs. So now you know the comparison between 2024 and 2025, and now you know what you can expect from the exam from 2026. So this is the chart. As you can see, respiration had the most amount of MCQs, and there was 1 MCQs from liver, 1 from biological molecules, 1 from hormone, 1 from bone. Gas transport had 1, histology, membranes, biological reactions, eukaryotic cells, enzymes, muscles. These are the chapters that were being asked in 2025. So I have given you the whole picture, what you have to prepare, how you have to prepare, what was like being asked every year. So you should know that these are the most important topics, these are the most recurring topics. So you should be focusing your most of the time in these topics. In the course that we are starting, we will be covering all of these topics very deeply, and we will be doing pattern recognition in these chapters. We have done the pattern recognition for chapters, and in our course we will do the pattern recognition for the topics and the questions that has been asked in IMAT past papers. And when you know which topics and which questions are like mostly repeated in IMAT, then you can practically predict what will appear in IMAT 2026. And I'm saying that you can predict that it's going to be like 80 to 90% accurate. I'm not joking. You can actually predict 80 to 90% paper if you know what is pattern recognition. It is a skill, it can be learned, it can be practiced, it can be used. You just have to work really hard for it. I have compiled this whole PDF. It took me a lot of time. So try to work as much hard as you can, study smart, because IMAT exam is for students that actually study smart, not really hard. You have to know that the students that work hard will get left behind the students that study really smart, that have much more resources, that spend most of their time on high yield topics. Because when you have the best resources, best strategy, and best amount of time, and imagine if you add hard work into all of these, you are going to be sweeping away all the competition, because competition will don't even matter at that point, because now you have everything. You have the strategy, you have the best resources, you have pattern recognition, and you have the hard work and the time to put into. So what will stop you from clearing these kind of exams. No one can stop you if you have the right strategy and the hard work. So good luck for your exam. That's all from my side. Bye bye. Allah Hafiz.